It is Shohei's 10th home run in 16 games. He leads the majors in home runs this season. And the Angels, my voice cracking, the Angels have now won 9 of 11. They are playing really well.
Exactly. This is an Angels team that was red hot coming into this one. You could have gotten them for plus money. And the Rangers are kind of on a skid right now, where their offense really isn't firing on all cylinders, because usually it doesn't really matter if their pitcher gives up a few runs, because the offense will come in behind them and give them a ton of run support. I'm running out of adjectives to describe Ohtani. We are living in a golden era of baseball. We were talking about this yesterday, how there are so many electric players who are doing things that have never been done before. Ohtani does this while pitching in a game. And then you also have guys like Ronald Acuna Jr. who's on pace for like 80 stolen bases. So if you fell into the trap of Ohtani at plus money, you ain't in that trap, brother. You're winning yourself some money. Are you a believer in the red hot Reds?
I sure am. Let's get some plus money on a card, baby. Andrew Abbott, I know he is not a guy who has a ton of experience in the majors, but Reds have been red hot recently. Astros have been middle of the road. JP France has struggled in front of the home crowd. ERA of almost 6. Let's go with the live dog. Reds money line, Chelsea.
This feels like a hold your nose play where the trends bear it out and the Reds have been red hot. I think I'm going to take them plus 1.5 though, because you get the extra run of cushion, which I think this is a solid play when you're taking road underdogs, because think about it. Even if Houston is ahead 1 run going into the bottom of the 9th, they're not going to play the bottom of the 9th if they're already ahead. So that's why I like taking road dogs, getting the plus 1.5. And also, Cincinnati has been very good on the run line this season, 41-28 on the run line, and even better on the road, 21-13 on the run line away. So hopefully the Redlegs can keep it close. I think that is the play for me. And I think Mets are probably number 1 on the list for me, with teams that have really high potentials that just let you down in a myriad of ways. Are you going to trust the Mets?
Hell no. Why in the world would you trust the Mets right now? The same Mets that are fighting the Nationals for last place in the NL East? I don't think so. The Mets have Tyler McGill on the mound. He's given up 14 earned in his last 16 2/3 innings pitched. Hard pass for this guy. Miles Michaelis rocked for 5 runs against the Reds in his last start on June 10th. However, before that appearance, Chelsea, he had not given up more than 3 runs in 10 straight outings. And the Mets have the 5th worst average in all of baseball when playing at home. They're still without Pete Alonso. Cardinals money line.
I think I'd lean that way too, but the Cardinals haven't been especially trustworthy either. They're 16-24 as favorites. So I don't know which direction to lean. I was thinking maybe the over, but the Mets go absolutely cold at some points when it comes to their lineup. So like, this is a complete stay away from me. I don't think either of these teams deserve my money.
Let's go elsewhere. And by that, I mean the diamond. We bring in Eric Kratz, host on Foul Territory TV, played 11 seasons in Major League Baseball.
This week, we've been talking a lot about like baseball and the era that we're in. And I'm interested to hear your take as a former player, because you see this all the time in like basketball and football where guys say, no, the era that I played in was the golden era of my sport. But right now truly feels like a renaissance for baseball. Do you believe that we are in a golden era for MLB?
I think any era has its own quirks and its own like awesome things. And I hope I'm 43. I finished playing 3 years ago. I hope I don't say, well, back in my time, things are always changing. The whole back in my day, it's like, that can get tired and nauseating because you're not really appreciating what is in front of us. Like, look at what's in front of us right now. Players are running faster, throwing harder, hitting the ball farther, and they're not on steroids. Like, they're not I'm not saying everybody's clean. I'm just saying that they're not on, it's not like it was rampant back in my day when it was, when I first got into the league, it was very rampant. It was, they're trying to get it out of the game. They're trying to clean up the game. But with that, like, pitchers weren't throwing 95. I think the average velocity right now is like 95.2, and when I first broke into the big
Oof.
leagues, I think it was like 92.1 or something like that. So yeah, it is an unbelievable time. There's young players, and that's exciting for me, and I love watching it. And all the analytics helps players, get the most out of their ability. And now we have, all these new rules that I think are bringing fans in, maybe more the casual fans. So to me, that's awesome. That's what we're looking for. That's what we want. We want just the casual fan to come in.
Let's bring in, you're a host on MLB Network Radio. You do work for Sirius XM, the college network, and you're right there for this College World Series.
As we know across all sports, certain teams just match up better against other teams. Are there any of these first-round matchups that you're eyeing and saying, hey, this team may not be as good as this other team, but they're a good matchup for said team? Because we have Oral Roberts, TCU, UVA, Florida, Wake Forest, Stanford, and LSU, Tennessee. Any of those matchups catch your eye?
Yeah, I mean, I think the matchups, to me, I don't think that there's an imbalance or one that I would go, this is a team that matches up well. I think they're pretty compelling matchups. I mean, I think Wake, especially if Quinn Matthews doesn't go, I think Wake has a huge advantage both on the mound and the plate. Listen, Sanford's lineup is really good, but Wake also, had the lowest ERA in the country as a team by, I think, almost a full run over number 2 Tennessee. So their pitching is excellent, and we just kind of talked about what kind of ballpark it is, and so it should play really well for them against that Stanford offense. I think that might be a little bit more of a mismatch than it would seem like. But then again, it's tough to determine whether or not anybody matches up well with Wake. I mean, they're the most complete team in the country right now. So that would be one, I guess. But otherwise, I mean, it's, like you've got LSU and Florida playing in the Saturday night game. Like, that's a great rivalry. Those are two really good teams. LSU's offense is terrific. Tennessee pitching has been great. You're probably going to see Paul Skeens start for LSU, who probably will be the number 2 overall pick in the draft and may win the Golden Spikes Award. Just won the Hauser Trophy. Like, he's been the most dominant pitcher in college baseball this year. And so I'm really curious to see that matchup more because there's history, there's a rivalry, there are SEC opponents, and you've got one of the best pitchers in the country going against a team that was number 2 to them to open the season. I mean, those were the top 2 teams in most of the polls to open the year, and Tennessee had a tremendous year last year. They're not quite as offensive as a year ago, but I think that's just from a fun matchup standpoint. I think that one's going to be great.
Mike, when you hear people talk about baseball and places you could visit, the usual suspects. It's Wrigley, it's Fenway, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard people say, and I know this is college baseball, if you want an incredible atmosphere, something that you would not anticipate, you need to go spend some time in Omaha at the College World Series, which wouldn't necessarily be in a top 10 list for most people. But can you give us an idea of what it's like to experience this there in Omaha? Because it really does become the center of the college baseball universe.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a festival of baseball is the way I would describe it. It's because it's not just, it's not 2 teams and you're going back and forth between the 2 cities like you have in the Major League Baseball World Series. This one is special because you have 8 teams in one spot. The community more than rolls out the red carpet for it. I mean, they are so excited every year to have it here. The players get involved around the community during the course of the week. There's basically an outdoor carnival outside the ballpark. I mean, there's concerts late at night that are loud at the bars into the wee hours of the morning on the weekend. There's tons of stuff for kids to do, play areas and, like fast pitch machines and all sorts of stuff that's outside the ballpark. And then you get to see, especially in the first 4 days of the tournament, you get to see all 8 teams compete because it is double elimination. And so it's just a really great event. And it is a lot of fun. And if you're a baseball fan, it should be a bucket list item because Omaha can, depending on what city you're in, it can be really easy to get to. You can get a direct flight to Omaha. It's got a decent-sized airport. It's a bigger city, I think, than people realize. It's kind of like Kansas City light in terms of the population. Great restaurants here. The old Market District is a lot of fun to hang out in, and it's like within walking distance of the ballpark. The ballpark being right downtown has its advantages, even though it doesn't have the same history that Rosenblatt did yet. But it is really, really a cool event. It is a ton of fun, and I would highly recommend anyone who's a baseball fan experience it at least once.
And if they can, they got to find the same hotel room you're in. Just get
Yeah,
the full
I mean,
Omaha experience,
I mean, nothing has ever been more taupe than this wall, right?